Hello friends and welcome to YouTube channel Freedom Tech, and in this session what we are going to learn. In last session we used yolov8 for object detection with the help of opencv and Python. So in this session we are going to use same video file and we are going to count the vehicles and we are going to track the vehicles. So before we move to our practical, friends, if you learn something from our videos, please consider to subscribe our channel. Okay friends, thank you so much and let's get started. So friends, in last session we used yolov8 for object detection on Windows machine. In this session we are going to use same video and we are going to track and count the vehicles with the help of region of interest area. So let's get started. So for that, first you need to install yolov8 and opencv on Windows machine. This is what Windows 11. Of course you can use here Windows 10 machine also. So I have already created the video. I will mention video link, watch video and install opencv and yolov8 on Windows machine. So as I mentioned, we are going to use here our last session repository. So I have just add here tracker.py, the tracker file which we are going to use for tracking our vehicles. Okay, so you need to simply copy and paste the link. This is the same repository. As I mentioned, I have only add here one more file which is tracker.py. So copy and paste the link, download the zip file and then just extract, then you will have all these files. Okay, so I have already mentioned here tracker.py file. Simple. So if I go here, file, click on open, and as you can see, this is what our tracker.py, which we are going to call inside our last session code, which is test.py. This is what our last session code which we create for detecting the object with the help of yolov8 using by default pre-trained model. Okay, so if I run the code, this is what our last session code where we left. We have here object, rectangle, and we have a class names also. As you can see, this is the car, truck, car. We have here person. So in this session our target is what, our motto is what, we are going to count here cars. We are not going to count here truck and person. We only count here a car. If there is car, we are going to first track the car and then we are going to count the frequency of cars. So we are going to use here a region of interest area. We are going to count our cars in particular area. Simple. So for that we have our tracker.py. So first what we want to do, we want to create our region of interest area. So we are going to use here a polylines. So simply we are going to freeze first frame because we want our coordinates. So for that, just freeze the frame and we are going to save our code and we are going to run our code. Then this is what our first frame. So this is what our region of interest area, let's say this is what our region of interest area. So we need to first draw here a polylines. Simple. So for that what we are going to do, we are going to use our mouse function, okay, which I have already mentioned inside the code. As you can see, this is what the mouse function. So if I run again code, so inside shell, as you can see, if I move my cursor on frame, we have here x and y coordinates. This is the points which we are going to use for drawing polylines. Simple. So let's just start from here. This is what our first point, let's say. So 270 and 238. This is what our first point, 270, 238. So let's just say here 270, 238 here. 270 and 238. This is what our first point. Okay, this is what our first area, first point. Then we need our second point. So open again our frame. So if this is the first, so let's say this one is second. So 294, 280. So 294, 280, 294, 280. Okay, then go here 592.226, 592.226, 592, 592, it's 592.226. okay, and our last point is here, let's say 552.207, 552.207, okay, inside a bracket 552.207. okay, now we are going to mention all these things inside square bracket, and we are going to call this as our area. Area is equal to, this is what our coordinates for drawing polylines. So we have our coordinates, just save the code first, okay, and just stop the code, and now we are going to draw our polylines. So we need to mention our polylines function over here, cv2.polylines, and inside that we are going to mention where we want to draw our polylines. We want to draw our polylines on frame, of course. Then in square bracket np dot array, and then again in bracket we are going to mention our area. So our area is basically our points which we mention. Then np dot int 32. Then what else we want? After square bracket complete, we need to mention true, and then we want color. So let's say 255, then 255, then 0, and thickness we are going to mention 3. okay, so if I save the code and if I run the code, and as you can see, this is what our polylines. So this is what our region of interest area. If our car inside this area, then only we are going to track, and then only we are going to count our vehicles. When our car pass this area, then only we are going to count and track. So we have our region of interest area ready. This is what our ROI. Now we need our tracker. So as I mentioned, we have our tracker.py. So simply we need to call our tracker.py inside our test.py file. So here, as you can see, I have mentioned from tracker import all things. So for that we need to mention star. From tracker import all things, like this way. I'm going to delete this one and I'm going to write again, then you will get idea. From tracker, our tracker file. So from tracker import all things. Okay, so from tracker import all things. Now here we are going to mention where we have our area. After that we are going to mention our variable, which is tracker. Tracker is equal to tracker, T capital. Okay, tracker is equal to tracker, T is basically capital. Why? Because our class is like this way, tracker. So we are going to basically call this tracker in our tracker. So tracker is equal to, from tracker file we import all, then tracker, our tracker, we are going to call our tracker class. Simple. So we have now our tracker class ready. Just save the code. Now how we can use our tracker? We are going to send our rectangle coordinates inside our tracker, and then we are going to use the tracker.update method. So for that, what we want to do here, okay, here we are going to, as I mentioned, we are going to only detect here a cars. So we need to mention if there is car, then we are going to create our list of rectangle. Here if car in our C means if we have a car class, then only we are going to draw a rectangle, and then only we are going to put our text on our rectangle. So if there is car in our C, because C is our class, so if car in C, we are going to simply draw a rectangle. Also we are going to put our text on our rectangle. So if I save the code, if I run the code, and as you can see, if I skip some frames, it's only now detecting our car. Okay, there is a person also in frame, but as we mentioned, we only want to detect the car, so it's only detecting car class. Simple. So we have done with creating our if condition for detecting only car class. Now we are going to create our list, and we are going to send our rectangle coordinate list inside our tracker file. So simple. Here we need to create a list dot append, and inside that we are going to pass our x1, y1, x2 and y2. So x1, y1, x1 comma y1 comma x2 and y2, x2 and y2. Simple. So here we need to mention our list. List is equal to empty list. So list dot append these all rectangle 4 coordinates we are going to append inside our list. So now we have our coordinates, rectangle coordinates inside lists. So simple, we are going to update our tracker with this list. So here after where we have our list dot append, we are going to mention like this way. Check whether it is in line. Okay, it's in line. Here we are going to mention our new variable, which is bbox id. Bbox id is equal to our tracker variable, which we mention here. If I scroll up, our tracker variable, because this tracker variable is our tracker. So tracker here, tracker dot update, tracker dot update. Okay, and inside that we are going to pass our list. Okay, so here we need to mention list inside this. That's it. Simple. Now we have our bbox id, so simply we are going to create a for loop. So for bbox in, this bbox id. Okay, so for bbox in bbox id, for bbox in bbox id. So as I mentioned, this tracker will basically give us again a rectangle coordinates for drawing the rectangle on object. Okay, so here now we have x4, then y4, or let's say because we have here x2 and y2, so let's say x3 and y3, and then x4 and y4. This is what our new coordinates. This new coordinates is basically from our tracker file. Okay, so now we have our new point. So simply now we can draw the rectangle using our tracker. So we are going to use here these coordinates. Okay, so here I forget to mention one more things. We will not complete our sentence. So x3, y3, x4, y4, and then we have id, because our tracker is basically give us the id for each object. So x3, y3, x4, y4 and id is equal to what? Is equal to our bbox. Simple, our bbox. That's it. Now we have our x3, y3, x4, y4. Simply here we are going to change our coordinates. So this will become x3, this will become y3, okay, and this will become x4, and this will become y4. Simple. And we are going to use here put text method, and we are going to put our id. Okay, then we will get the idea. So id here, simply change the c with id. Okay, and this x1 and y1 also we are going to mention our rectangle top corner. So x3 and y3. So x3 and y3. Simple. So if I want to check, okay, here we are going to mention, let's go with 1 by 1 frame. Okay, so I'm not going to change this 0 with 1. Okay, so we are going to just start our code, and we are going to skip some frames, so we'll get the idea. And as you can see, friends, this car, it has 0. Let's just change the color or thickness. Let's go with 2. Okay, if I save the code, if I run the code, So as you can see, this car, it has 0. Okay, it has 0. This is the ID for this car. So let's just skip some frames. Okay, now as you can see, it has 8 ID, 8 number. Okay, so now it's still 8. 8. Now our car is inside our area which we create. It's still 8. This car, it has still same ID, the 8. Okay, that's it. So when our car pass our region of area, our ID is same. It means what we want, we only want track and count our vehicles in our region of interest area. Then only we are going to track and count. Okay, so let's just go with this car. Let's just go with this car. As you can see, it has now 13. This is what ID for this car. As you can see, 13. So just skip frame. Now it's 18. As you can see, it's changed 18. But it's now inside our area, same ID 18. Okay. Now again it's changed, but there is no issue because when our car inside area, the ID is same. The ID is same. Go with next one, 11. 11, still 11. 11. Now it's changed, but no problem because we track and we count. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we need to mention, this is what the idea, we only count our vehicles in our region of interest area. Okay, so this is what the idea. So for that we are going to use, as I already create the video how you can use a CV2 point polygon test method for detecting a particular object in particular region interest area. So we are going to use same method, CV2 point polygon test, and for that we need first our object center point. We are going to say when our object center point is inside our polygon area, then only we are going to track our object, also we are going to count. So first we need our object center point. So we need our Cx and Cy. So we have our x3, y3, x4, y4. So with the help of, we will get our center point. So simple, we are going to create here Cx is equal to int. Inside that we are going to mention x3 plus x4 divided by 2. Then Cy is equal to int. Then we are going to mention x4 plus y4 divided by 2. Then now we have our Cx and Cy. So let's just draw our circle. So circle means the center point, CV2 dot circle, and inside that we are going to mention our frame because we want to draw our circle on our frame. Then what else we want? We want our coordinates, so Cx and Cy. Then we want our radius, so let's say 4. And then we are going to mention the color. So color 0/0 255. Let's make a red, and because we want to fill the circle, so we are going to mention -1. So if I save the code, if I run the code, and as you can see, there is some there is something problem. What is the problem? Okay, x3 and x4 okay. So problem is what? x3 and x4 and I forget to mention here y3, not x3. Okay, so y3. So y3 and y4 is basically our Cy. So Cx is basically x3 and x4, and Cy is basically y3 and y4. Okay, so save the code. If I run the code, now we will have a center point for each object. As you can see, this car, it has center point. So just skip the frame. As you can see, this one car, it has center point. Now our center point is inside our selected area, our region of interest area. Then we are going to track and count our vehicles. Simple. So let's just stop the code. We have our circle. Now we are going to use our CV2 point polygon test method. So after where we have our Cx and Cy, we are going to simply say CV2 dot point P capital polygon T capital test point polygon T capital test, and inside that we need to mention our area. because when our center point is inside our area, region of interest area, so our area is basically what? Our area is basically this method np.array. So just copy and just mention here inside this cv2 point polygon test method. After that, what we want? We want our center point. So our center point is basically cx and cy. So in tuple we are going to mention cx and cy. Then simply mention false. That's it. So now this will we are going to mention as a results. This is the variable, and as I already created the video how to use this method. So in this results we have 0, we have not 0, basically we have basically -1 and 1. So -1 and 1, this is the result. So we can say here simply, if our results is greater than and is equal to 0, if it is greater than or is equal to 0, then only we are going to draw the circle, then only we are going to draw the rectangle, then only we are going to put our text, our id text. Okay, so if I save the code, if I run the code, and as you can see, now there is no object detection, no center point, no tracker id, because our object is not inside our area. Okay, so skip the frame, skip frame, and now our car is now inside our area, and as you can see, it's detected, and we have tracker, rectangle, and we have circle. Now it's left the area, there is nothing. Okay, again for this car, it's detected, there is a rectangle and there is a center point, all these things. Tracker id is also there for this car also, as you can see. So we successfully create a perfect tracking method. When our object in our area, then only we are going to count, then only we are going to track, then only we are going to draw the rectangle, also then only we need our object detection. Simple. So now let's just start our while loop. 1, and if I save the code, if I run the code, as you can see, first, this is the first car, this one is our second car, only detected when the object is inside our selected region of interest area. Simple. So now we have our object, particular area, we draw rectangle, we have our id. Now what we want to do here, we are going to mention like this way. After where we have our put text method, here we are going to mention, if all these things happen, then only we are going to say area c dot add, and we are going to add our id, and we are going to create the set of our id. So here we need to mention, here we are going to mention our area c is equal to set of our id. So sorry, this inside that we don't want to mention anything, because this is the empty set list. Okay, so area c is equal to set, and inside area c we are going to create a id set. Okay, so for that I have mentioned the id. This is what our id. Okay, area c dot add id. Now here where we have our polylines, here we are going to print our area c. Okay, so if I save the code, if I run the code, now watch the cell. Okay, so we detect our first car and it has 8 id, so we can say here 8. Now second, it has 18 id, 11, we have our 3 car. Okay, inside shell, as you can see, we have now fourth id is there. So our count is basically our set of id length. So okay, so simply we are going to mention here print length of our area c, then we will have a counter. If I save the code, if I run the code, as you can see, we counted one car, second car, third one. Okay, so we have our counter. Now what we are going to do, we are going to simply mention this as a variable. So let's say count is equal to this, all these things, and we are going to create our put text method. So let's copy all these things, copy it here, here, after that count variable, and then we are going to change our strid with our count variable, because our count variable is our counter, and here we need to mention particular points. So let's say 1580. Okay, so if I save the code, if I run the code, okay, this is what the counter. Basically we are going to do what here, let's say 61 and 146. Okay, 61 and 146. So 61 and 146. Also we are going to change our font because we need a bigger font. So plain, plain. Okay, and then this we are going to mention, let's say 5. Okay, if I save the code, if I run the code, so 0. Now 1, we count one car. 2, let's make a red. Okay, let's make a red, or let's go with pink, or let's just go with white. Okay, 255. That's good. Now 0. Now we count one car. Car is left our area. Second car, we count a second car. And as you can see, because the second car is changed the ID, so that's why we have false count here. 6, 7, then this one is 8. We only one car miscount. Okay, only one car. We are going to solve this problem also. Okay, so let's just first count all these things, all these cars. Basically this one is 9 and this one is 10. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to simply create the area little bit small. Okay, so let's just go here. I think this one inside shell we have 285 and 258, 285 and 258. Okay, because this is the model which we use here. This is pre-trained model. In real scenario, when you want to detect the objects, of course you can create your own custom model with better object detection performance. Okay, so here let's say what is basically the coordinates. So I need to run again a frame. So here, let's say here inside shell we have 285 and 262. Okay, 285 and 262, 285 and 262. Now let's just check our second car problem is solved or not. Okay, so we make our area small, we detect our first car, then we have our second car, this car, detect, that's it, the problem is solved. Okay, so now we count a perfect 2 car. So this one is third one. Now we have fourth car. We only mention if our car is in the area, then only we are going to count. That's why it's not counting other vehicles like truck and all other things. Okay, it's only detect a car, and our car, if it is in particular area, then only it's count. We count 5 cars. So this one is basically 6. So now is 6. So friends, as you can see, we successfully detect our object with the help of yolov8. We track our object, also we count our object when our object is in our selected region of interest area. As I mentioned, in real scenario, you create your own custom model for perfect object detection. Okay, so I hope you will learn something from this video. We'll meet our next video. Till then, thank you, take care, and bye bye.